Good morning, guys. Welcome to Sunday School this morning. We've got a good lesson today. It's called Evidence All Around Us, and we're going to be again in Genesis chapter 1. We're going to read verse 1 again. We're going to be in Romans 1, 19 and 20, Psalms 19 and 1, Romans 2, 12 through 15, and Hebrews 10 and 16. If y'all want to go ahead and get your sheets out, today it's going to be VTE 2-2. It's your student outline for today. If you want to get that out so you can take your notes and follow along with us today as we go through our lesson. So again, it's called Evidence All Around Us. The theme is, how do we know God exists? Our lesson objectives is stand firm in faith, knowing life, creation, and morality all point to the existence of God. Our key truths for today: something caused it all. Design indicates a designer, and our sense of right and wrong points to a righteous God. So that's our key points, our key truths today. It says things we all should know. Who is God? God is spirit, as we know in John chapter 4, verse 24. Who is the creator of everything. He is perfectly good and has all power. God is a personal being who thinks, feels, speaks, and acts. So that's who God is. And how does it fit? Where this lesson fits in the story of the Bible, this lesson gives us confidence that God exists and created all things in the beginning, which calls to our attention that we depend on Him and are under His authority. So we're all under His authority. He is in control. He is the one that created everything. As we talked about last week, He spoke everything into existence for each and every one of us. So He spoke everything into existence. He's all powerful. Just by His words, by speaking, He was able to create everything in 6 literal days. So this first part says, something caused it all, and this is Genesis 1 and 1. It is logical to understand that everything has a beginning and a beginner. It also has a cause. The latest, if you look at our iPhones, which I'm recording on my iPhone right now, but if you think about your iPhone, how was it created? It had to be created by something or someone. It just didn't happen by chance. So it had a beginning and a beginner. We understand that these things had a beginning in some intelligent designer who caused them. Again, these things just didn't happen by chance. We didn't say, poof, it's an iPhone. Okay, we don't have that power. Okay, it didn't happen by some explosion that they put all these things together and it, exploded and bam, we have an iPhone. It was made by an intelligent designer. It had a creator that created it. Okay, but what about the universe and life itself? It also has a creator, and as we know in Genesis 1 verse 1, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Okay, and it took Him 6 literal days, 24-hour days, to do that, as we studied last week. This is pretty interesting, and this is part of our focus today. The first cause argument is helpful in discussing the origin of the universe. Simply put, it states that everything that begins to exist must have a cause. We believe the first cause is an intelligent designer, which is the Creator God. Okay, so there are 3 premises to this argument. Okay, the first one is whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe had a cause. Okay, so that's the first cause argument. Okay, leading scientists, Christians, non-Christians, they acknowledge that there's time, space, and matter begin to exist at a universe's inception. If time, space, and matter did not exist before the beginning of the universe, then it is logical to conclude that the cause of the universe had to be timeless, spaceless, and immaterial. Okay, the Big Bang Theory claims that billions of years ago, all the matter, they call them subatomic particles, okay, in the universe became concentrated to a single point and exploded, eventually forming the cosmos as we know it today. Does that make sense? If you have this huge explosion, what happens in an explosion? It's utter chaos, right? You have pieces over here, you have pieces scattered over here. Nothing comes together during an explosion, okay? Pieces are scattered all over the place. So there's no way that all of these subatomic particles came together and caused this huge explosion and have life as we know it, okay? It just doesn't make sense. There's a major problem with this claim. Concentrated matter or subatomic particles are material and could not have existed yet. If these subatomic particles were simply some kind of exception, the next question would be, where did those subatomic particles come from? So even if this did happen, where did those particles come from? It had to come from something. Something had to put them there. Something or someone had to create those particles to create all of these other things. So then there'd be another question. The next question would be, where did the cause of the subatomic particles come from? And the questions would continue and continue and continue. Where did the subatomic particles come from? Why was the cause? What was the cause of these subatomic particles to exist? And then you could just keep on asking questions. Where and why? Where and why? These questions, they would just continue and continue and continue. Okay. The realization that every person must come to is that something or someone eternal had to exist in order for life as we know it to exist. And that person, that someone, that something is God. Okay? He is the one that created everything. He is the one that put everything together. He spoke everything into existence. Genesis 1:1 tells us that God created all things in the beginning. The answer how life began to exist and who caused it. So who caused these things and who made all of these things? God. God did. God has never been bound by time, and speaking of God's unique nature, Isaiah described him as one who inhabits eternity or lives forever. And that is in Isaiah chapter 57, verse 15, if you want to go back and look at that. John 4:24, it says that we know that God is spirit, which would correspond with the first cause being spaceless and immaterial. The very first statement in the Bible provides the foundation for making sense of the universe itself. And what that is in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So that first statement in the Bible provides the foundation for making sense of the universe as we know it. We know it to be true that God created everything. So we can be confident in God's existence because of the wonder and complexity of life. We can see it all around us. We can look outside right now. We can see the trees. We can see the grass. We can see the clouds. We can see all of these great designs that God has created. Okay? And know that He is the one that created it all. This next part says, design indicates a designer. And this comes from Romans chapter 1, verses 19 and 20, and Psalms chapter 19, verse 1. It says that we can see design everywhere. We can see design in a house. Someone planned the length and depth and width of each room. So if you ever seen a house blueprint, you know, a drafter draws out the plans and has a design for what the house is going to look like and the measurements of each room and where things are going to go. Somebody had to create that and put that together. Okay, everywhere we look, there's a purpose and intentional design. Every human can see evidence of God's eternal power and divine nature. Humanity is ultimately without excuse when it comes to acknowledging a creator. So we are without excuse to know that there is a creator. Okay, and everything that we see, we can see it by, like I said, the trees and the grass and the sky and the stars and the moon and the sun and all of these things. We can look at these things and know that there is a creator behind all of this. Okay. This dig deeper part, it's pretty interesting. It says There are many finely tuned details about our universe that imply intelligent design. For example, the human body reproduces 2 million red blood cells every second. We do not have to tell our bodies to do this. They just do it. That's pretty cool, isn't it? In one day, the average human body will produce 200 billion, billion with the B, red blood cells, constantly removing carbon dioxide, transporting it to the lungs to be exhaled out of the body. This type of intricate detail does not point to chance, but rather to a designer. Look at ourselves, look at the human body and how it works. How did all of that come together? It just wasn't by chance that all the parts that we have just came together to create us. It had to be created by who? By God, the creator of everything. This is pretty neat too. Due to its size, the gravitational force on Jupiter is 2.4 times the gravity on Earth. If Jupiter were not this size, requiring such a strong gravitational pull, and if it were not positioned where it is in our solar system, Earth would be hit by daily meteor showers, rendering it uninhabitable. So God placed Jupiter in the exact spot that it's supposed to place, that it's supposed to be in, because of its strong gravitational force. It blocks all of the meteors from hitting us. Wow, that's pretty amazing to know that God put everything in place. Everything that was created, it was created for a purpose. And if it wasn't for that, then Earth as we know it we wouldn't be able to live here because of all of the meteor showers that would be able to hit us if Jupiter was not where it was at. It's pretty amazing stuff. These are only 2 of hundreds of thousands of details of how our finely tuned universe functions, all of which indicate an intelligent mind behind it. And that intelligent mind is God himself. He is the one that created everything. In Psalm 19:1, David proclaimed that the cosmos declared the glory of God, and his handiwork is evident throughout the skies. He was just able, David, they didn't have telescopes back then, to see up close the stars and the moon and all of these different things, the galaxies. But they could just look up in the sky, see all those great things, the stars and the moon and the galaxies and all that, and know that there was a creator, and the creator being God through that. So again, we are without excuse to not know that there is a creator behind everything, and that creator again is God. So we need to be confident in God's existence because the wonder and complexity of creation point to his intelligent design. Everything that we see on this earth, it was because of God's intelligent design. This last part, it says our sense of right and wrong points to a righteous God. So this is going to be talking about morals. Okay, this is Romans 2:12 through 15 and Hebrews chapter 10 verse 16. It says, where does our natural desire to be treated fairly come from? On a deeper level, how do we know that murder and rape are wrong? How do we know that these things are wrong? Where does this universal ethic come from? It seems evident that humanity has a moral standard it operates by. But who decided this standard? Who decided that we would know that these things were wrong? If the Creator exists and spoke life into existence, then it would seem logical that he also set a standard of what is right for all of humanity to follow. If he put all of these things in place, if he spoke everything into existence, it would just make sense to know that he set the standard of what is right for all of humanity to follow. God's standard of right is how we can identify what wrong looks like. And this is talking about the moral law argument. And it provides evidence for the existence of God based on the existence of morality. And it states this. Number one, if objective moral values exist, then God exists. Objective moral values exist. Therefore, God exists. Okay, so that's the moral law argument that provides evidence that God exists. Again, if objective moral values exist, God exists. Objective moral values do exist. Therefore, God exists. Okay, so many agnostics or atheists, however, would suggest that anyone can be a moral person and not believe in God or follow the Bible. And that is a true statement. Okay, but it does not account for where the standard of measuring morality comes from. Some would suggest that our sense of morality and the development of a moral standard evolved along with us. But then the theory of evolution doesn't agree with that. Okay, it doesn't go with that. So the theory of evolution suggests that only the strong survive. Okay, so we need to imagine that a clan of people evolved to a point that they established a standard of morality. But then there could be another group of people that were stronger that would come in and destroy them, and then they would start living by their standards. Okay, so it doesn't make sense. Okay, that morality evolves over time. Okay, this would be problematic within the concept of Darwin and evolution, because a stronger clan could come in and kill the clan that established a moral standard. The stronger clan could then establish a different moral standard. This would be a never-ending cycle for humanity, because humans are naturally selfish and would constantly create their own standards. So when the next group would come in, they would create their own standard, and then another group would come in and destroy them, and they would create their own moral standards. Okay, so an objective standard would need to be set by something or someone beyond humanity. Okay, so we believe God is that standard. If morality were left to each individual's interpretation, the world would be chaotic. Okay, if we lived by our own rules, if we lived the way that we wanted to, and you can see when people try to put things in their own hand, the chaos that's going on in our world now. People destroying things, people burning down buildings, people tearing down things, people killing people for no reason, all of these different things. It's just chaos. Okay, without a standard that is set above and over humanity, we would not be able to flourish. So whether an individual believes in God or not, we can all identify evil when we see it, because God has placed on our hearts His standard for right and wrong. Okay. So in Romans chapter 2, the Apostle Paul reminded the believers in Rome that the law was written so they could identify God's will and what is right. So the law is put in place so that we would know right from wrong. Okay, so the law is put into place so that we would know that we have sinned. Okay, but Paul also added that even the Gentiles who did not have the law could still fulfill the requirements of the law, because it was written on their hearts. Who put it on their hearts? God did, when He spoke everything into existence. He put these standards on our hearts so that we would know. Hebrews 10:16 reminds us that the Lord said He would write His laws on our hearts and on our minds. So God gives us that moral standard that we need to know what is right and wrong. So we need to be confident in God's existence, because a worldwide sense of morality is evidence for an overarching moral lawgiver. Another way that we know that God exists is because He has spoken to us through His Word. Okay, the Bible. That's where we get it. The Bible was written by approximately 40 different authors over a span of 1,500 years. In 3 languages, the Bible still fits together and points to God's plan of redemption through His Son, Jesus. The Bible is special because the Holy Spirit inspired it. It was all of these people that wrote the Bible. It was inspired by the Holy Spirit. It records actual historical accounts of historical people from historical places on a historical timeline. So we know that the Bible is true. We can see it. We know that God created everything. We know that He gave us a moral standard to live by. And we have proof of all of these things. So we need to defend our faith. Okay, and this is a good lesson to help us to do that. So, we defend what we think is correct, right, or best. People who think Michael Jordan is the best basketball player, they'll tell you the reasons why he's the best basketball player. If people think that LeBron James is the best basketball player, they will tell you what they think and how they feel and why that he's the best basketball player. So we should be prepared to defend our faith when somebody asks us to tell us why God exists, or if God is real. We need to defend our faith and be able to know. And the only way that we're going to know it is if we read it and study it for ourselves, so that we know. Okay, so we've got to be on top of that. We've got to study and read our Bibles, and do lessons like this to help us prepare to defend our faith and let people know about the God that we serve, and about the God, our God, that spoke everything into existence. So I hope that you have a good rest of the day. I hope you've enjoyed our lesson. Hope you've got something out of it. I'll see you soon.